Hello, I'm Kajoli Sarkar from ADARSH MANDIR, SHANKAR Vidyapeeth. Today we will study that women change the world. In this chapter mainly we will read about some great women who has done something different and in different manner. Mainly the topics are, we'll understand women equality and how they are struggling to achieve it. Understanding the way in which the women's movement is happening to achieve equality, and also about the iconic Indian women who fought for their rights. So let's start with the help of this smartphone.
Women Change the World Introduction. Apart from housework, which is very time consuming and demanding and mental health, women also do jobs outside of home. Of these women, around 84% do agricultural work such as planting, weeding, harvesting and threshing. Women are now not only breaking stereotypes, but also making lifestyle choices for themselves. For instance, Lakshmi Lakra, who became the first women driver for Northern Railways, took up electronics as her subject and cleared the railways exam to work for them. Thus, she was able to support her parents and also enjoy the work that she wanted to do. However, girls find it difficult to break the typical mindsets. Many people believe that girls are usually patient and hence can make good nurses, that they do not possess scientific temper and hence cannot make good doctors and engineers, that they ought to get married as soon as they finish school, etc. Boys do face pressure largely from their peers and adults. This can happen when they do not want to study maths or take up history or play outdoor games or cry in front of others, etc. In the past, only men were allowed to read and write and communicate. Only they were allowed to perform major tasks. Women were allowed to do only supportive tasks such as collecting mud and preparing the earth for pots, but never allowed to operate the wheel and thus never do pottery on their own. In 1898, Ramabai set up a mission near Pune in which women were encouraged not only to read and write, but also learn carpentry skills, how to run a printing press, etc. Thus, change can be brought about in societies by encouraging girls to mainly read and write. Struggle for equality. Like Ramabai, several other women like Ruqayya Sakhawat Hussain and Rasundari Devi carried on the struggle for equality in the 1900s. Ruqayya wrote the Sultana's Dream in 1905, where in an imaginary place like Ladyland, Sultana dreams about women creating flying air cars and rain clouds and could work and study too. Rasundari, 1800 to 90, at the age of 60, wrote the first autobiography, Amar Chivo, to be written by an Indian woman. It was believed that a woman would become a widow early if she learned to read and write. However, both women secretly studied English and Bangla respectively and thus became learned and questioned the inequality in society through their writings. They described their own experiences and opinions on new ways of thinking and living both for men and women. Girls may leave school due to poverty or discrimination, due to gender or poor schooling facilities. Children from Dalit, Adivasi and Muslim communities leave school early as in rural and poor areas there may neither be proper schools nor teachers who teach on a regular basis. Parents may not be willing to send their girls to school if the school is distant from their homes and no transport like buses or vans is available. Many families are too poor and cannot bear the cost of educating all their children. because they are discriminated against by their teacher and classmates due to caste. Even today in India, there is a difference in the number of boys versus girls attending school or being literate. This shows in the census, which is done in India once in 10 years and counts the population of the country, the number of literate people, the ratio of males to females, etc. In the 2001 census, figures reveal that 74% of men and 54% of women in India were literate. This was a rise from 1961 census, when 40% of men and only 15% of women were literate. Socio-Political Women's Movement. Women's movement. Women have individually and collectively struggled and put in passionate efforts to spread awareness, fight discrimination, and seek justice and bring about positive changes. Thus, women and girls now have the right to study and go to school. Situation in other spheres like legal reform, violence, and health too has improved. Individual women and business organizations from diverse parts of the country are part of the movement. Many men also support the women's movement. Different strategies used are campaigns to fight discrimination and violence against women have helped in the passing of new laws. In the 1980s, women's groups across the country spoke out against dowry tax. Cases of young brides being murdered by their in-laws or husbands greedy for more dowry. The women campaigned by coming onto the streets, approaching the courts, and by sharing information. Consequently, this became a huge public issue in the newspapers and society, and the dowry laws became stringent to punish such families. Similarly, the women's movement led the Supreme Court to formulate guidelines in 1997 to protect women against sexual harassment at the workplace and within educational institutions. A law passed in 2006 also gave some legal protection to women who face physical and mental domestic violence within their homes, raising awareness. The women's movements also work to raise public awareness on women's rights issues. Their message is spread through street plays, songs, and public meetings. Protesting. The women's movement raises its voice when violations against women take place or when a law or policy acts against their interests. Public rallies and demonstrations are used to effectively draw attention to injustices. Showing solidarity. The women's movement is also about showing solidarity with other women and causes around the world.